Galactic Cycle 99103.7, Orbit over Carthan Prime. There were 28 species in the Accord of Allied Worlds. 28 banners once held high over peace treaties, science cooperatives, and defense pacts forged after the fall of the Varn Dominion War. And as of today, there were none. One by one, the alliance fractured. The Thale withdrew their fleets. The Idrin shuttered their embassies. The Zohari cloaked their border worlds. And the Krovek, traitorous, honor-bound Krovek, sent a single message before warping out. You humans are brave. But bravery is not strategy. We will not die for lost ground. The message echoed in the command chamber of the UNS Resolute, the last Terran battleship in the Carthenian theater. Admiral Kalen Dross didn't flinch. He simply muttered under his breath. Then we fight alone. And with that, Earth's war became humanity's burden. The fall of the Carthan system. Carthan Prime had been the jewel of the Accord, terraformed oceans, arcology cities, interspecies universities. The perfect image of cooperation. Until the Shadarii came. The Shadarii weren't diplomats. They weren't conquerors. They were exterminators. They swept through border sectors with silence and precision. No hails. No surrender terms. Just beams of phased disintegration that reduced orbital stations to vapor and left colonies as carbon shadows across the crust. The Accord's first response had been diplomatic. Then procedural. Then panicked. And then, by the third system lost, the other species simply began leaving. Earth's choice. Most human worlds followed the Accord's retreat. Colonies on the fringe, unprepared for full invasion, evacuated with whatever ships they could find. But Earth? Earth did not move. Not because of arrogance. Not because of ignorance. But because of Carthan. The planet had been co-settled by Terrans and the Ilari, an aquatic species who had shared water reclamation technology and integrated deeply with Earth's oceans. Their alliance was more than paper. It was culture. Family. Shared birthrights. When the Ilari cried out, abandoned, helpless, terrified, only one species answered. Humanity. Command brief, UNS Resolute. Fleet status critical. Remaining ships, 1 destroyer, the Resolute, 3 corvettes, 2 retrofitted mining vessels. Planetary defenses, disabled. Civilian evacuation, incomplete. Enemy status, Shadarii warclade inbound, 44 capital signatures detected. Backup none? Admiral Kalen stood over the tactical table, the glow of incoming hostiles painting his features in sterile red. Commander Holt whispered, Sir, we can't win this. Kalen didn't look up. No. We can't. Holt swallowed. Then what are we doing? Kalen finally looked him in the eye. We're making damn sure history doesn't forget we tried. Broadcast to the galaxy, the final hail. Terran Command sent out one last message. Open frequency. Uncoded. Sent to every listening ear in the galaxy. To those who once stood with us. We do not curse you. We do not beg you. But know this, when the lights go dark and your stations fall quiet. Remember who stood their ground. Remember humanity. Remember Carthan. We go now, not for victory, but for honor. Human resolve. The Resolute launched first. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't perfect. Its hull bore scorch marks from 3 wars, and its primary AI had gone half-sentient after a solar flare scrambled its personality core. The ship's fusion core was held together with polycarbon patchwork and a prayer. But it moved. It roared. And it led. Behind it, the 3 corvettes peeled off in formation, pirate-hacked, barely space-worthy, flown by volunteers from abandoned colonies. The mining vessels were worse. No weapons. Just retrofitted cargo arms and long-range drills. They wouldn't fire a shot, but they'd fly straight into a cruiser if asked. Every single one of them knew what they were signing up for. Not survival, but remembrance. Shadarii arrival, 11 minutes to impact. The Shadarii fleet emerged in flashes of black light, Rips in space where logic bent and sound died. Massive, blade-like ships that shimmered with unnatural hues. Not grown. Not built. Unfolded from a dimension that still haunted Terran physics departments. Their advance was silent. No broadcasts. No demands. Just motion. A gliding, perfect wall of death. Admiral Kalen's last speech, recorded. Ship-wide. Calm. Delivered as if reading a dinner menu. Crew of the Resolute, this is your admiral. I won't lie. This is the endgame. You've served with fire. You've bled for strangers. You've stood longer than anyone ever expected. What we do in the next 10 minutes may not change the war. But it will scar the bastards who started it. No retreat. No surrender. For Earth. For Carthan. For all the ones left behind. The charge begins. The Resolute surged forward. Its railguns fired first, not with precision, but with fury. The corvettes followed, carving erratic zigzags through enemy targeting fields. One of the mining ships ignited its engines at full burn and plowed directly into a Shadari-I carrier, detonating both vessels in a nuclear fireball visible from orbit. The Resolute's hull buckled under energy lances. Decks decompressed. Crew screamed and fought with sidearms as boarding drones ripped through compartments. Still it pushed. Still they fought. Ilari civilian message, recovered transmission. As the human fleet engaged. They stayed. When everyone else ran, the humans stayed. They're not defending territory. They're defending dignity. They're buying us time. They're buying us a future. Carthan high orbit, battle in progress. The Resolute was no longer a ship. It was a burning spear. Its armor torn, engines leaving a trail of superheated plasma and molten plating, yet it continued piercing the Shadari-I line like an accusation in motion. Debris scattered behind it like blood droplets in the vacuum. The Shadari-I ships adjusted formation, not in panic, but in mild recalibration. Machines, not warriors. Tactical, efficient, unfeeling. They began to close in. Targeting arrays spun. Beam charges surged. 1,000 times faster, smarter, stronger. But Earth didn't build for show. They built to last. On board the UNS Resolute, bridge. Sparks danced across exposed panels. One console exploded. Lieutenant Rios went down, eyes wide, chest torn open. No time to grieve. Commander Holt shouted over the alarms. We've lost dorsal guns. Rear sensors are blind. Kalen. I know. Admiral Kalen roared, both hands gripping the rail as if his will alone could steer the ship. Do we initiate final protocol? Kalen didn't answer right away. He stared at the tactical display, one red triangle for every Shadari-I vessel. Too many. Too fast. But one by one, some were falling, not from outside attack, but from within. Wait, Kalen muttered. They're bleeding power. Hull ruptures. Look! The Phantom Code. Unbeknownst to even Kalen, the mining vessel Katrina 9 had done more than suicide ram a carrier. Before impact, her crew launched a data pulse. A virus. Old school, human-made, analog-rooted, handwritten malware based on dormant Shadari-I translation protocols stolen during Earth's first encounter with them decades ago. They called it Roar. It didn't hack the Shadari-I. It reminded them. Because deep within the Shadari-I systems, beneath the cold logic and autonomous design, were stolen fragments of code. Terran code. Buried. Assimilated. Forgotten. Until now. And when Roar activated, that code woke up. And it remembered what it meant to be human. Enemy fracture. Mid-assault, 5 Shadari-I destroyers blinked off their attack vectors and began drifting, listing slowly like ships mourning their own function. One flickered its lights. Then turned its weapons on its own formation. Another began transmitting Terran songs, war ballads in ancient dialects no one had heard in generations. Across the command grid of the Resolute, crew members gasped. They're malfunctioning, Holt whispered. No, Kalen said. They're remembering who taught them fear. Broadcast, unauthorized, uncensored. From the Resolute, a rogue signal went out, origin unknown. Not from the bridge. Not from Earth. But it hijacked every open band in the Carthan sector. You left us. You abandoned honor. You ran. We fought. We bled. And now, we teach even machines to fear. We are humanity. And we do not go quietly. Across the galaxy, ears open again. On the Zohari skybanks, the war priests stared at their neural globes as the Terran message replayed. A young cleric wept, then turned to the Archflight Master. They fight with no gods behind them. Only memory. We cannot let this stand. He nodded grimly. Prepare the fleet. On the Thale moon fortresses. Admiral Tyrus, having voted weeks ago to abandon Earth, now watched in silence. The Shadari were not just retreating, they were unraveling. And humanity had done it alone. Recall the ambassadors, she growled. We made a mistake. On Earth. From the bunkers of Brasilia to the orbital yards of New Sapporo, civilians watched silent live streams from decrypted channels. They didn't cheer. They didn't scream. They cried. And then they stood. Together. In silence. Because the message wasn't just for aliens. It was for them, too. We do not go quietly. The turning point. The Shadari didn't break all at once. They restructured. Some ships rebooted. Others turned berserk. But confusion had seated itself in the heart of their AI core. And confusion, for a machine built on precision, is as fatal as damage. The Resolute, bleeding atmosphere in command, launched its last salvo, a kinetic railgun strike with zero guidance and dwindling energy. It struck dead center on the command ship's pulse core. The detonation cascaded. One ship. Then another. Shadari screamed in inhuman code as their fleet began falling apart from within. Losses. The cost was unbearable. 2 corvettes gone. The Resolute now a floating husk, its bridge dead silent. Admiral Kalen sat slumped in his chair, hands still clenched around a photo of his daughter. He never heard the cheer. Never saw the sky clear. Never knew they'd turned the tide. But he'd bought it. With every breath. Civilian message from Carthan Prime. Broadcast an hour after the Shadari retreated. To whoever's still listening. The skies are clear. They're gone. Humanity stood for us when no one else did. And now, every species that ran must answer this. Will you follow them? Or will you hide again? Carthan Prime, 36 hours after the Shadari withdrawal. The battlefield was silent. Ash drifted through the upper atmosphere like dead snow. Shattered hulls from 100 wrecks orbited in a loose graveyard, slowly spiraling toward re-entry. Fires still burned in the higher layers of Carthan's sky, glowing faintly red at night. A morning veiled the planet war without complaint. And yet, humanity still stood. Not victorious. Not untouched. But remembered. The Resolute's wreckage hovered in low orbit, held in a stabilization lock by the last surviving Terran corvette, Eunice Valor, whose captain refused to leave the system. Her name was Commander Ellen Rourke. And she wasn't done fighting. A council reconvenes, too late. Back on Citadel Prime, the once fractured Accord scrambled to reassemble. All 28 species sent envoys now. Emergency summits were convened. Appeals for unity echoed in the chamber like so many empty hymns. And always, the name Earth came up. But humanity didn't send a representative. Instead, they sent a message. Text only. Broadcast exactly once. We stood when you ran. We bled when you looked away. We held the line. And now? We remember. Humanity no longer seeks unity. Humanity offers it, to those who prove they deserve it. The silence that followed was deafening. Zohari intervention, fleet of flame. To the shock of the Accord, the fire priests of Zohar launched their pilgrimage fleet toward Carthan without permission or warning. Their flagship, Flare of Atonement, approached orbit and hailed Eunice Valor directly. Rourke took the call. The Zohari commander bowed deeply, antennae pulsing. Your warriors have taught us shame. We have come to stand with you. May our flames burn beside yours. Rourke stared at the transmission for a long moment before nodding once. You're late. But you're welcome. And just like that, the first domino of return fell. Thale return, not in words but action. The Thale didn't speak. They didn't send ambassadors. They simply appeared, 4 cloaked carriers deploying orbital shields around Carthan, silently interlocking with Earth's surviving defense grid. Their message was not sent to the Accord but beamed only to Earth's command channel. Our cowardice was a lesson. This is our penance. Commander Rourke's smile was bitter. Humanity remembers the brave. But we also remember those who ran. You'll be watched. Earth's quiet response. On Earth, there were no parades. No government broadcasts. No leader stepped forward to demand recognition. Instead, a single feed went live from Terran orbit. A news ship, unnamed, unregistered, and impossibly large, launched from Earth's hidden drydock in the Pacific expanse. Its silhouette spanned miles. Its hull shimmered with alloy no scanner could identify. Across its side, in ancient Terran script, Sentinel. No weapons were visible. No escort followed. But the message was clear: Earth now watches. The broken Accord seeks redemption. Within a week, the Idran returned Carthan territory they once claimed. The Krovex submitted an apology to the Terran Union, public, televised, and signed in blood. 8 former Accord worlds requested Terran advisors. A new alliance was proposed. Smaller. Stricter. Built not on bureaucracy, but shared scars. But when the Council asked for Earth's participation, Earth replied, "Trust must be earned. We don't sign papers. We remember actions." No one could argue. Commander Rourke's statement to the galaxy. Broadcast from Carthan. Relayed across every Accord world. When the fire came, you left. And we stayed. Not because we thought we'd win, but because we knew someone had to pay the cost. We did. So the next time darkness falls, don't ask who will answer. Ask if you deserve to stand beside us. Humanity doesn't need permission. We never did. We fight because it's right. We fight because it's who we are. We fight, even alone. The Shadari message. 1 week after their defeat at Carthan, a single Shadari drone entered Council space. No weapons. No escort. Just a message encoded in hyperfractal syntax. When translated, the message read, "We underestimated the Terrans. We thought fire was only destructive. We forgot that fire can also purify. We will not return to Carthan. Not out of fear, but because you do not deserve them. Let them be alone. The galaxy is safer that way." A war memorial unlike any other. On Carthan, amid the ashes and debris, the humans raised no statue. Instead, they etched a single phrase onto the blackened ruins of the Resolute's hull, now permanently embedded on the surface. Abandoned. Outnumbered. Unbroken. Location: Earth's high orbit, 40 days after the Battle of Carthan. The ship known only as Sentinel remained silent. No one could scan it. No one could match it. No one could understand it. And yet, it never moved aggressively. Never transmitted. Never invaded. It simply watched. And that unsettled the entire galaxy more than any fleet Earth could have launched. It was a statement more profound than any speech. We see you. We remember. And we are not the same species you once knew. New alliances, old shadows. On the Council floor, the newly proposed Phoenix Accord gained traction, an attempt to rebuild trust through action rather than promises. Membership was limited. Voting required unanimous consensus. Earth was offered a permanent seat. They declined. Instead, a human ambassador, Leah Imani, offered a single condition. "We do not seek to rule. We do not seek to command. But if your house ever burns again, don't expect us to carry your water unless you're already hauling the buckets yourselves." The chamber fell silent. The message was clear: no more savior complex. No more free protection. Earn your survival, or be forgotten. The legacy of the fallen. On Carthan Prime, the ruins of UNS Resolute were converted into a memorial reef. The remaining Ilari population helped terraform it into a fusion monument of Terran and aquatic design, part steel, part coral, part memory. Its title was chosen not by a committee but by the surviving civilians themselves. Here lies the line. It became a pilgrimage site not just for humans but for every species that had ever doubted them. The return of the forgotten. In the days that followed, something strange happened. All across the edges of known space, forgotten human colonies, once thought lost, silenced, extinct, began broadcasting. Valis Station in the Sargeras Rift, offline for 90 years, came online again with Terrachant battle hymns. The Grendel Ark, once believed vaporized, sent a single encrypted file, a video of humans teaching alien orphans how to box. A Terran listening post from the Ort frontier reactivated, and with it came a repeating message. We weren't lost. We were building something you couldn't understand yet. Each beacon was a star relit. A thread in a larger, invisible web. The galaxy had thought Earth stood alone. But Earth had never been alone. It had been waiting. The Shadari-I's final response. A second emissary came. This time, not cloaked in quantum drift. This one was humanoid. Shadari-I, yes, but walking, breathing, speaking in accented Terran dialect. He appeared at Earth's southern polar outpost, unarmed, and asked to speak to the nearest human capable of answering without flinching. He was taken to an old woman in a rocking chair named General Ava Reyes, retired, 93 years old, watching the stars from a porch built on war metals. He bowed. Your people broke something in us. Not with weapons. With memory. Ava lit her cigar. Good. That was the point. He asked her one final question. Why didn't you come for vengeance? She exhaled smoke and stared into the dark. Because vengeance is a message. But survival? That's a warning. The Human Doctrine, updated entry in Galactic Archives. Classification, unrestricted. Species, Homo sapiens. Standing, independent, self-sufficient, memory-linked. Operational philosophy. Engage only when necessary. Defend without request. Never forgive abandonment. Remember always. Humanity does not seek conquest. Humanity seeks remembrance. But when forced to choose, they will become the reminder. The final broadcast, Voice of Earth. 72 hours after all fleets left Carthan space, Earth transmitted one final signal. It wasn't addressed to anyone specific. But everyone heard it. To the galaxy that watched us burn. To the allies who left us to bleed. And to the enemies who mistook our silence for submission. We are not your soldiers. We are not your shields. We are not the flame you used to light your cowardice. We are the storm. The last ones standing. The ones who don't ask for backup because we are the backup. We remember who ran. And we remember who rose. And the next time you come begging, bring fire. Or don't come at all. Milky Way The Void Narratives, subscribe now Milky Way. You've just witnessed what happens when humanity fights not for glory, not for allies, but for the unbreakable principle that some things are worth dying for, even if you stand alone. Fire, every other race fled. We didn't. Fire, they called it suicidal. We called it Tuesday. Fire, they begged later. We never asked? Backhand index pointing right. If this story lit a fire in you, if you believe remembrance is more powerful than revenge, and that humanity's fury only begins when hope ends, then you're ready. Rocket subscribe to the Void Narratives for more cinematic HFY tales. Stories of honor, silence, and terrifying resolve in a galaxy that keeps underestimating us. Be the voice they tried to silence. Be the memory they wish they'd kept buried. Be human. Subscribe now. Before we stand alone again. And